Hello.
Hello, Audrey. How are you?
Good. How are you?
Fantastic.
Happy Monday.
Yes, it is. Every day is a good day when you get up. So what's your day been like today? Did y'all go back at it today?
We did. So, actually today for me was kind of calm. So just let everybody else in the office do their thing. So.
Well, that's awesome. I mean, because ours was just absolutely insane today. We had 2 people who potentially were exposed over the weekend. We had another young lady who actually went and got her vaccination today and then came back, I think, and only to have some abdominal completely unrelated things that had happened from that. And then it just one of those crazy days things. And we were really shorthanded today on top of everything else. So it's just, I was amazed I got done.
That's never good on the first day back.
No, it's not, and I feel like I was telling somebody earlier today, this holiday season for some reason felt different, only in the fact that I guess it was the timing of the days. I didn't get nearly as much stuff accomplished before I came back to work that I typically do. I usually have got it all basically figured out and done when I get back. And this morning I got here, I was like, holy, I haven't done anything, and, oh my gosh, what am I going to do? So, yeah.
I think it was the bittersweet of just how it fell on the weekend. You're like, oh, I still have my weekend. So the holidays, they felt long and then short at the same time. So.
Right. Yeah. That's what was kind of crazy about it. You are exactly correct.
Yeah. So, I'm going to get my second, I'm going to be completely vaccinated here on Friday. So since you said your staff member went, I'm pretty pumped about that. So I'm going to get my second shot on Friday. Pretty excited about that.
See, I think my second one is coming. I got mine done this past Wednesday. So I won't get my second one done, I guess, for another 12 or 13 days. I can't remember exactly when it is. My pharmacist has got it all figured out. He told me, he said he'd just let me know. So, and he actually came to the office to inject us, which was
that's
really
great.
Yeah. And that made it a lot easier. So what kind of side effects did you have, if any?
My arm was sore for a few days on the first shot. I got Pfizer. My husband just got a shot, Saturday. He got Moderna. So same thing. He just had a sore arm. So we'll see what happens Friday. A really good friend of mine, she's a PA up in Northern Indiana, and a good friend of hers was in the clinical trial for Pfizer. And she said on the second shot, she actually had flu-like symptoms for about 12 hours. She said she slept through it, took some Tylenol and stuff. It wasn't anything bad. So we'll see how after Friday goes. I'll let you know.
Yeah. I mean, I have heard that the second round, you do get a little bit more potential side effects, but I felt fine after the first one. I mean,
I had a little sore arm. That was it. So
it was a lot more than a little sore arm. It felt like getting a tetanus shot. That was what I mean, golly.
Mine woke me up that night. I rolled over and I was like, ow, but
exactly.
So minimal to the side effects of certain people who get COVID. So maybe that's why I'll undermine it to being small side effects.
Exactly. Welcome to the Vision of Leadership podcast. I'm your host, Ted McElroy. This podcast is dedicated to helping you find your wins, have a better quality of life, and become the best leader you can be. Hey, have you subscribed to this podcast yet? Don't miss an episode. They're worth every single thing you paid for them, which is nothing because they're free. I invite you to subscribe to the podcast by hitting the subscribe button. Give us a rating and a review on your specific podcast player. This helps us with our podcast rankings and makes it easier for people to find us. And as always, please support those who help support us. episode 102 of this podcast, Chris interviewed Justin Kwan, Michelle Andrews, and Richard Ruth. They pointed out that as a profession, we have done a great job of letting our patients know that myopia is not a big deal. If you can see 20/20, there is no worry. It is the high myopes that are in more danger. And as they said, that message is tragic. Any myopia has a higher risk of maculopathy, glaucoma, and earlier cataract development. In the MiSight one-day clinical trials, only 4% of study participants who got ProClear one-days stayed stable in their myopia progression over the 3-year period. That means you can confidently say, parent, by not going to a system geared to slow the myopia progression, there is a 96% chance your child's vision will get worse. This may take away some of the choice your child has in the future as to how they will correct their vision. Choice, not fear of the disease associations with myopia, is what best resonates with parents when it comes to myopia control for their children. And with CooperVision's MiSight One Day, we now have an FDA-approved single-use contact lens to lessen the progression of myopia in our patients. Contact your CooperVision representative to find out more about MiSight One Day contact lenses. Welcome to the Vision of Leadership podcast. I'm your host, Ted McElroy, and I am really excited today to have as my guest Audrey Nelson. Audrey is the COO for VisionQuest Eyecare in the Greater Indianapolis area. They've done some really impressive things in the last couple of years, many of which we're going to touch on. And if we have time, I wanted to sort of talk about their new office they've just completed not too long ago, which is really phenomenal. We got a chance to talk about it. Audrey and two of the partners in the practice are in an idea sharing group that I'm in, that we go to Houston. Well, we used to go to Houston. Now we all do it virtually. Speaking of which, Audrey, and welcome to the podcast. But Audrey, do you remember what it was like February the 28th when we were all making fun of this thing that just seemed so silly? And can you believe that was just 7 years ago?
No, I know, right? Because I recall having that joyous plane ride with Dr. Browning and sitting next to masks that thing were like, oh, they're wearing a mask. Like, it's no big deal. Why are they wearing a mask? And we sit by the one person on the plane who's wearing a mask. And I believe getting off, and he's like, that dude coughed on the back of your head like 365 times. I counted every single one. And we were just laughing, and it was like, ha, ha, ha. And wow. January 4th here, 2021. It's crazy.
I know. And in that same weekend, a bunch of us, we all went out to this Dave and Buster's kind of place. And there was hundreds and hundreds of people roaming around, touching the same basketballs. I mean, first of all, you were just absolutely tearing up that basketball machine, by the way, I'll have to say, putting the lights
My
out. My
proudest moment of that Houston trip, by the way.
That was phenomenal. It was incredible. But yeah, I mean, and then to go from that. So just, I guess, to start off, can you tell me one thing that you have gleaned out of the last 12, 11 months? What something that you've added that you'll continue to keep doing, something like that?
Yeah, I think a gleaning moment, I read somewhere the other day, how 2020, it's like the year of eye care. All of us that work in the eye care business, like we waited our whole lifetime and we had to live up to all the people that were before us, right? And all the marketing and the ideas. And really it was a year for us of refocus. So it was definitely an eye-opening year, maybe not the year of vision like we had envisioned it to be. However, it was certainly eye-opening. And, one of the things that we have done, and I'm so extremely proud of, the team at VisionQuest and the people I get to work with, because the resilience of everybody, when the world stopped March 17th and we had to close, for 7 weeks, and the fear of the unknown at that point was very high. And coming back, and at VisionQuest, we are very much about the patient experience, and we're like, how are we going to do this with COVID? We have to keep people distance, not get too close, the safety of our staff, the safety of our patients. So one of the things that we did And honestly, Ted, I think it won't go away, is we've done direct ship of our glasses to our patients. So we are shipping directly to our patients. Our patients absolutely love it. It was phenomenal. They're like, yes, just deliver them straight to my house. That's perfect. And we do curbside delivery. So we have signs and designated parking spots set up now for curbside delivery to keep, so we could still adjust glasses outside, have people pick up product that didn't want it directly delivered to them, which is fine. But we wanted to keep the masses out of the office. We felt that was the best thing for the patients and our staff, to reduce the amount of people in our office at one time, but yet not really cut down on the level of care we were able to provide.
So is the front door locked to your office, or?
The front door stayed locked for about 10 weeks, but it is not now. No. We have very large signs on. We do, you have to call us before you come in, and we do a virtual check-in. However, the door is not locked though. So.
Yeah, that's similar to what we're doing as well. And I've got a couple of signs out front telling people to, call us before. And it's kind of funny. When we unlocked the door, we didn't tell anybody we had unlocked the door, but nobody's coming in just on their own. And that's, it's kind of, everybody's gotten into that kind of mindset. I think when you go to the doctor, it doesn't matter what kind of doctor you're going to, that's just kind of how it works. So it's a very much a shift change. And, one thing I think that we're going to continue to keep, let's say that this whole vaccine thing works great. And I hope it does. It truly does. I mean, you and I were talking about it a moment ago. You've got your second coming up. I've got my second one coming up. I hope that everyone will go out and get this thing. If you get nothing else from this podcast today, please go get your vaccination. It's kind of the right thing to do, but cold and flu season is coming back around. And so, I think that, if nothing else, we've learned this is a good way to control some of that kind of stuff. So hopefully you guys have had a pretty easy go of it in your office too, not having to really have a lot of people out with it yet. How's that gone?
Yeah, I mean, we've been so lucky. We have only had one. We have a staff of 35 across all three of our locations. And we've only had one positive, and it happened outside of the office. So it luckily was around Thanksgiving. So it happened while they were out of the office, became symptomatic because they were on some PTO. But we really only had one staff member test positive for COVID. So the protocols are certainly tight in our offices. We've had a couple other patients from the other medical field, and they're like, wow, you're certainly very diligent here. We certainly appreciate that, and telling us how strict some of our protocols are, but it's kept us safe. So I don't see us lightening up on that till hopefully, yes, people get their vaccines and we can start to see this, virus kind of go away. When that is, time will tell. But until then, we're certainly going to continue being diligent on the protocols that we have in the office by, making virtual check-ins, eliminating so many people in the office at one time. And, at the same time, also separating our staff, and coaching and talking to our team members about safe behaviors outside of the office. We do everything we can to keep the office safe. But I'm really proud of our team members because I think they are being very diligent outside of the office as well and making good decisions.
We're having a similar story here. We've only had one positive test. Unfortunately, it was me. And I think it happened in a period similar to what your situation was. I got exposed when I was away from the office. My diagnosis came in before I came back. So I just stayed away and, nobody else really was exposed. We potentially may have two, like I said earlier today, that may be testing positive. So we'll find out hopefully tomorrow what their situation is. One of the things I really wanted to dig into today, you have the role of Chief Operations Officer, and that is something that's a little bit unique to most of Eyecare. So explain to everybody, what is a Chief Operations Officer? How did you get deemed this title? What kind of preparation it's really, an unusual type of thing for most practices.
It really is. I'll be honest, but I didn't hear the role of Chief Operating Officer a lot I've been in the eye care industry for 15 years. And before I got the title at VisionQuest Eyecare, it was not commonly a position in private practice optometry. I believe I have not a plug or anything, but one of the wisdom sharing meetings that Dr. Browning and Dr. Knoll were at for Vision Source kind of talked about, new roles and ways to grow the practice and, some administrative help. And that's where they really developed the chief operating officer role and job description. What do I do? A little bit of everything, to be honest. So, one of the things that I was tasked to do is, especially at our practice in VisionQuest Eyecare, like I said, I've come from corporate optometry, and VisionQuest was looking to grow, had Dr. Browning and Dr. Knoll had aspirations to grow the practice and to take the practice in a little bit of a different direction than they had been going with their practice administrator. And they're fantastic doctors and they know that, and they're very good at the doctor part of everything, but they really lack some optical, knowledge and running an efficient optical floor, and truly someone to help with leadership development, office management, as far as, developing the people inside our practice. So for me, my main roles when I came in were really taking over the optical floor and really looking at the way our practice and things that we did in our practice. Were we running as efficiently as we could? What little things could we do to make the patient experience better and make us more profitable in what we were doing? And so that started on the optical floor, looking at our opticians, the way we were talking to patients, selling glasses, the labs that we use, vendor relationships, partnering with vendors, to make sure we were getting the best deals, and what product mix was right for our patient base and for our practice. Then, looking at the rest of the operations, our techs, how do we work people up? How much time does it take? How, where can we enhance the patient experience? And we're very big at VisionQuest Eyecare and enhancing the patient experience. Here in the Greater Indianapolis area, I think you can find an Eyecare, eye doctor every 3 miles if you wanted to. So competition is very big. It's very tight. So we needed patients not to come to us because their insurance necessarily told them to, but that they wanted to come to us because they got something that they didn't get from a previous eye doctor. So I focused on that. That's one of my it's still to this day. That's one of my biggest things that I do for the practice and kind of my ownership and accountability in the practice. And what else do I do? One of the things that I think is big, and I knew you were going to ask me this question. So I was like, what does the CEO do? And I have a list of things I think I do, but I wanted to ask other members of our practice, our associate ODs. And it's like, what do you think I do? And really the biggest addition, we have 4 associate docs and 2 owners that also practice in our practice. And one of the biggest things I do is I'm like the communication liaison. So from the admin level to the practice level. So really making sure that the communication, that our focuses, things that we're working on, our improvement, being able to involve multiple parties in what we're doing. I get to be that communication liaison between the associate docs and, the management team and our associates to really make sure that we're creating the best experience for our patients in the practice. And I get to share those things with, Chris and Terry, the 2 owners.
So with that role, are you more of a buffer or a conduit or, how does, I'm trying to look at this from a standpoint of how do you maintain that level of communication flowing through where you're also not just standing in the way between 2 groups of people?
Yeah. It's a little bit of both, to be honest. We're a practice that wants to do and change. We're always looking at what little things can we do that we can do better. And in the practice, my role in that communication is things just move faster when one person, I'm not stuck in an exam lane all day. So it doesn't take me, 2 days to relay a message, to 30 different people. Does it take me time to schedule out a conversation that needs to happen, immediately, or to get feedback in the practice? So, probably not going to say this correctly or how I want to say this, but being able to communicate quicker with multiple people just allows thought processes. And when we decide we want to go with something or implement something, it just happens a lot faster, with myself kind of leading that conversation, because both the owners in our practice are very active in practicing eye care as well. So a lot of, ideas, I think ideas are great, but if you can't implement them, that's the problem. So my job is really taking those great ideas and putting them into action.
So when you guys were formulating this role and looking at it, what were some of the first things that Dr. Browning and Dr. Knoll said, okay, that's not something I need to be doing anymore. That's not something I need to be touching.
Optical was honestly the first thing that came off their plates. Neither one of them had the time, or really understood vendor relationships on there, or what frames, and, making the most profitable on what we were carrying with vision plans, and what we should do. So that was the first thing is, here's what we do, make us more profitable on the optical floor. Take the knowledge that you have, and I want to worry less about buying frames or what it is. I want you to take that and, make us more effective and profitable on the optical floor.
So then you get this role. How did they find you? That's the other thing. I mean, I know a little bit about actually kind of unusually, you left a larger practice setting as far as more locations to come. I'm sure your role increased greatly when you came to VisionQuest, but you left a larger organization to come to VisionQuest. So you obviously brought some expertise and knowledge there, but how did they find you? What were the qualifications that made you a COO versus just an office manager, I guess? I mean, not that there's anything wrong with, because I wouldn't want that job either.
I'll be honest. I think timing is everything. So I will say that, the larger organization I was at, I was ready to do something else. And I put feelers out to really some vendors that, I traveled around to 12 different locations, as a district manager, and I was ready to do a little bit more. And, I'd been doing that for 3.5 years, and just was ready to try something new. And so I put some feelers out to some vendors and to people I knew. And identically at the same time, VisionQuest had lost their practice administrator. And so they had just come back from a meeting in Texas, and decided that, hey, this is a role we want. This is what we're going to do. And, who do we go and find? And just so happened in a very short amount of time, one of those vendors was having a conversation with Dr. Knoll, who mentioned that, hey, we're looking for somebody, if you know anybody that's looking, we need to replace our practice administrator. And she's like, oh, hey, I got a resume. I actually got somebody that might be interested. And so she reached out to me, and I forwarded my resume, and I met with them. And that's when all things clicked, to be honest. What VisionSource was looking for, or what VisionQuest was looking for, and what I could bring to the table was just a larger scale, honestly, being with a larger corporate optometry practice. And I just had a lot more optical knowledge and leadership experience, managing people as well, as something I had done for 10 years in the corporate optometry. And that was the perfect match, to be honest. All the things checked. They wanted somebody to, work on policies and procedures, and, how could we be better, make us more profitable. Optical was one of those things, and really just a lot of the boxes checked on both parts. I still laugh today because you said why you left a larger organization to go somewhere smaller. And I remember sitting in that interview, and Dr. Knoll, he goes, are you going to be bored? He's like, this is at this time, we only had 2 locations when I started at VisionQuest. And he's like, you're used to traveling, and, you've had 12 locations. Are you sure you're not going to be bored? And almost 5 years later, I laugh at it and I tell him this like constantly, probably about every quarter. And I'm like, remember when you told me I was going to be bored? I haven't been bored a day that I've worked here. So bigger is not always better. I think it's finding the right match personally. And, I think Chris and Terry too realized that they were in a place where they had hoped to grow a little bit, and I could bring some opportunities to the practice, and strengthen some areas to make that growth possible.
Okay. So they had an idea of what they saw to happen. How long did it take before you started seeing things that you wanted to also put your hand into? And what were some of those things?
Yeah, it's one of those things. I remember it's like, hey, you go in, right? And I think it was the board of directors of Chanel at one point said, you just need to listen for 30 days, 45 days. You don't do anything. You need to listen. You need to get to know the practice. And I was like, I'm going to do that. And it was about 2 days in, and I'm observing stuff. And we've totally missed there was we were missing a vision. It was filing vision benefits and contact lens exams, and the staff wasn't doing it. And they're like, we don't do that. You don't file for that. And I'm like, what? You're leaving money on the table. Like, what do you mean you don't file for that? Like, you have to file that exam. You get paid for that. And they're like, no, we don't. So it took about 2 days to realize there were some things amiss that I could not sit back and for 45 days just let things that could change like very quickly to do that. But it was about 2 days in, but big picture, getting to know the practice. There were things just immediately meeting people, probably within, 3 to 6 months, we certainly started to change some of the things that we did. One of the things that the biggest impact, because I still am. I'm very much focused on patient experience. I think when there's a lot of places that people can go, you have to make it seem different. And I wish the general public thought and was as passionate about eye care as we both are, and other people in this industry. But unfortunately, I don't think that there's still a large miss of people who don't look at eye care as healthcare. And so we really wanted to be the go-to place in the greater Indianapolis area, and that patients, the biggest small practice we could be. And so, that was one of the things that we started to do. And, at that time Dr. Browning and all the associates and the rest of the doctors in our group were seeing patients every 15 minutes, and we were behind all the time, every day. Like, just observe, we were constantly running behind. And the first biggest thing that we started to work on is how could we see less patients and do more? And so we started to work together and figure out how spending more time with our patients was better for patient care, and it was better financially for the practice. So probably within the first 3 to 6 months that I was there, we moved practice templates from 15 minutes to 20 minutes and implemented ways that we would be able to financially be better off. And I will say that was a good move for us. We were certainly doing more by seeing less patients.
So seeing less people, bringing more revenue into the practice. And was that because now everybody has a chance to make the recommendations that are prudent and necessary? Yep. Okay. So.
Well, and we realized that when you look at flow, you don't realize we weren't giving our doctors enough time. They always were like, oh, there's 2 more people waiting. So there was that certain always sense of urgency that they needed to get out and get to the next patient. And the other thing is that we were flooding our optical floor. So we were not allowing our opticians to really get into recommendations and what patients wanted out of eye care and, and in that pair of glasses. So the flow was completely off. The biggest thing was we didn't run behind as much, but our optical floor had so much of a better flow that allowed our opticians to actually have engaged conversations with patients. So our capture rate, really went up. And I think it was just because we had more time to spend with our patients and have better conversations.
So each location has 2 doctors on average per day. Is that right?
Well, one of them does. The other, our other East Washington office in the area, it's a 1 doctor office. And then hopefully our new office that you mentioned that we just opened in June, it's built to have 3 doctors, hopefully. So it's a cold start that our goal is to have 3 doctors working up there full time at one time, within the next 5 years.
Yeah, and some of the plans that you guys came through, Chris showed it to all of us. It was just phenomenal how you guys have laid that place out, and it's just incredible layout, and looks like the flow is going to be brilliant. I can't imagine anyone stepping in there as a guest and not thinking, "Wow, this is an amazing, amazing place." So
we did say we got the best compliment, and I'll share it. It was probably about 2 weeks after opening, and we had a patient walk in. And he came in the morning, and then he sent his wife in the afternoon for an eye exam. And we asked, it's like, oh, how did your husband, what did he think? And he goes, well, he told me it was Apple meets healthcare.
That's great.
I was like, that's exactly what we wanted, to be honest. We wanted it to feel like a place that you felt comfortable, but yet very cool. Like, people think the Apple store is cool. And so when he's like, it's like the Apple store plus like the eye doctor office, it's weird. He's like, you just have to go in and see for yourself. So we found that to be a very cool compliment.
So you're serving as a liaison between the doctors, and I presume you're also serving as a liaison as well to the rest of the team. So what kind of things are you doing that are helping you unify the group? Because I mean, you've got 35 people. That's a kind of an unwieldy mess at some point. How do you unify them all on a common goal, common theme, core values, what have you? How are you keeping them in the right direction and everybody on the same page?
Yeah. Also, when I started there, the other thing that I wanted to do is kind of put in some management structure into the practice, because it's hard for one person to communicate to 35, different people. And so really, we have, each one of our offices has an office manager. And then we have our front desk, our techs, and, our opticians, and then our associate ODs. So, mainly my messaging goes out to all the managers. I meet with them every 2 weeks. We have a manager meeting, and I travel to each one of our offices. So I am in the office, one of our practicing offices every day. I'm a kind of person, I think you cannot run a practice and look at ways to make the practice better if you're not in the practice. So you have to see what's going on. You have to be in the trenches. You have to coach and be willing to work side by side with your people. So, that's really how that communication goes. It's a little bit of a trickle down, but as long as my 3 managers, we're on the same page, we talk about what's going on. Ted, in our wisdom sharing meetings, we got 12 practices in there. Everybody has the same stuff going on. It doesn't matter where you're at. It's all the same. So we open it up there because I think it lets them feel like they're not alone. And then we work through things, and then we implement it through them. And then the manager's responsibility is to, share that and coach, and then the team below that. And of course, where support is needed, if it's a big issue or something that's really, I wish everything happened the way we wanted it the first time we said it. It doesn't. A lot of things take a lot of time. So that's my role then in the practice, is to help the manager side by side, just be that secondary coach to them and another level of support to change behaviors or whatever it is we're working on.
It's funny. I had somebody told me recently, I was discussing, I'm in another idea sharing group. Imagine that. I think if I could do this for a living, that would be great. Just to go from one idea sharing group to the next and just do that. But this idea sharing group I'm in, called Business Accelerator, that's being led by a guy named Michael Hyatt. And I was having a discussion, like every Monday, they do a Q&A call for an hour with the entire Business Accelerator group, as many people want to show up. I think this morning there was 150 people on this call. Wow. And they'll take questions after they do their few minutes at the very beginning. And I was having some challenge I've got one staff member who had really gotten frustrated with the fact that she would say something as in instruction and then have to say it again, and would just lose it because people weren't, I told them already, and we've got these other things. And, and I said to Michael, this is kind of frustrating for her. And he goes, well, Ted, just go ahead and presume the fact that they're going to forget. Just go ahead and presume from the very beginning they're going to forget, because you do, and it's no different for them. So why don't you just go ahead and start there? And then it's not nearly as frustrating because they're going to forget, so when you repeat again, you'd say, oh, that's right, Michael said they were going to forget, so now I'm going to say it again, and that's kind of what you were saying just reminded me of that, because I think one of the titles that we all need to embrace is not the CEO or the COO or the CFO. It's the CRO, the Chief Reminding Officer.
Yeah.
And part of that isn't always about policies and procedures. Part of it is just the day-to-day culture things, because if we haven't said it enough, they're not going to embrace it. They're going to go into their own culture if we just let it happen.
Yeah,
you know?
Absolutely. We're big proponents of that. We have to set the way we want it to be done, and keep talking about it and live it ourselves every day and keep reminding. Otherwise, they're going to make their own alternative universe. That's just how it's going to be. So we have great people too. So, but that's my role, is really reminding the staff and being there, because they do forget, and it's hard to change behaviors, right? 21 days to change a habit. So it takes time. Sometimes I have to remind myself as I'm an instant gratification kind of person. So if you ask my parents, they would tell you I wasn't born with a lot of patience. Ask my husband. Somehow I have 3 kids, 3 boys. So they absolutely have taught me a little bit more patience, but you just got to stick with it. And, we're in the practice where it's the little things. There are no more big things for us to be really great. It's the little things. And you have to remind yourself that the little things, they're hard. And they take a lot of time, and you can't give up. And, that's what we focus on every day. And that's what, with our management and then our doctors, and really just trying to, develop our team to realize that we see what they see, and that it's not me, it's not Audrey who wants to do this. It's not Dr. Browning who wants to do this. This is what our patients want, and how do we get them involved to be a part of the solution, and that, and engage our management team as well as our associate, and ask them to engage the associates. How do we come together? What's everybody's role in this? Because if I go out there and say, hey, we're doing this, they're going to forget a lot more and a lot faster. So that's kind of my role, is to really get the whole team engaged in the focus of what we're trying to do, whatever that may be.
So I'm glad you said it's what our patients want, because this is leading right into something I really want to dig into. Who the heck is Ashley? How did y'all find her? Why do you care what she thinks in the first place? I want you to dig into that, because this is a really great thing. And I'm talking about how you figured out who Ashley was too.
Yeah. So it was a really great consultant, talks about who do you want to build your practice around. So actually, that's an old, and I won't say old, and he still talks about it to this day, is a big Gary Gerber thing. Like, if you're going to grow your practice, who's your demographic? Like, do things that you want, do things that the patients you want to see. We all have patients, right, in the practice that we love, our favorite patients. Then we all have our patients that are a little bit more difficult, right? So, we named Ashley. Like, our practice is built as, how can we see as many Ashleys as we want? And Ashley for us is she's changing a little bit what we thought, but Ashley for us is a 33 to probably 50-year-old woman, because in healthcare, who makes the decisions in the practice?
Mom.
Yeah. And, everybody's Ashley or Marjorie. I think you said you have a Marjorie. Yep. Is that Marjorie? Everybody's is different, and there's no right one or wrong one. It's whatever you're really trying to utilize to grow your practice, and who you want to be, the biggest patient base that you carry. So Ashley for us is, like I said, she's mom. We feel like in private, practice optometry, and the hard patients are the old patients, right? That's the patients that take the longest, because disease, it's not, I think, I'm not a doctor, but I've been around enough optometrists. I think I could play one on TV. I'm pretty confident about that, but
probably better.
I don't know about that, but I could play one on TV. But it's the disease, and, we like treating it, and it's part of what we do, and we want it in our practices. But man, it's so much easier to see a 35-year-old, -2 myope that has no medical problems, right?
Yeah.
and who wants to buy their annual supply of contacts from you and 3 pairs of glasses, right? It's so much more profitable to see that patient too than, the 70-year-old glaucoma suspect or glaucoma patient, right? So, so we absolutely, are passionate about medical eye care at VisionQuest Eye Care. However, we do not want that to be the driver of our practice. We still want to, how do we grow routine eye care? Well, mom makes the healthcare decisions. If she's a mom, she has what? Kids.
Exactly.
So, and if mom's going to come in and has a good experience, then she's going to bring her whole family, and she's probably going to make dad come in too. Right. So Ashley for us is that 33 to 50-year-old mom. And our practices are very much in suburbia, all around Indianapolis. We're in the suburbs of Indianapolis. Our practices are very much, we know we are very fortunate that our practices are financially stable, like our communities are financially stable. So that's a plus for us. But with that there are certain things that mom wants. She's college educated, more than likely, and she's really, really busy because she's got 2 or 3 kids who are involved in every single activity that you could possibly think of. And we need to make Ashley feel like this is her practice. Like she's going to get the best care. Her kids are going to get the best care, and then she can go about her day. So that's Ashley for us.
So with that in mind, is that why you started shipping Ashley's glasses to her?
Yes.
To make it simple for her. Literally, do you start asking every question? Well, is Ashley going to like this?
Yes, we do. Everything that we do is whether Ashley's going to like it. It's easy. Ashley is me. I'm Ashley. I fit 100% Ashley. I live here. I live, right in the middle of where our practices are. Well, one of our practices, but we do. And I try not to make it so personal, but, and most of our staff is Ashley, to be honest. So we ask those things, and everything we do when we designed our new office, we're like, is Ashley going to like it? What's Ashley going to think? We don't want it to look like her house, but does she feel like it's new? Because Ashley likes things that are new. Like she likes technology. She needs things quick for her. What's simple. And shipping glasses and doing the curbside pickup all became for us, our local grocery store is Kroger. Right. And I was in the parking lot and I'm Ashley, like, I hate going to the grocery store because I never get to go by myself. And I have 3 kids. So it's like getting in Mom, I want that. I want that. I want that. I want that. And you're like, no, just want to go. So it's like, you know what? I'm done. Like, when do I go to the grocery store? I want to go home. I got to pick up my kids. Who has baseball practice tonight? Who has this going on? When do I get time for myself? When do I get a workout in, and do all of these things? So for me, the grocery store pickup was like, I'm sitting there and one day I pull in and I'm like, God, I'm 8th in line. There's 4 spots and there's like 4 people are in those spots and there's 4 of us waiting. And I'm like the 8th person. And I'm like, man, what is she doing? Like Ashley wants things. She don't want to get out of her car. She wants it now. Then COVID came, right?
Yeah.
Ashley really likes packages delivered to her door. So, I don't know if most of you guys have seen those memes. You're like, I have so many packages. I don't even know what I'm ordering anymore. I don't even know what it is. Well, that was me. And, I was able to get groceries delivered and it was the best thing ever. It seriously saved me an hour out of my day, not having to go to the grocery store, have to wait in line to have them picked up. Don't tell Kroger I pay more than the $9 it costs just to have them shipped because it's a huge convenience factor. And we feel at this point, Ashley really is about convenience because there's not enough time in her day. So we do ask Ashley, and shipping the glasses was one of those things where like, does Ashley want it? The labs today, they do a great job. Almost all the jobs come in correct. If you can have that, frame manufacturers today, it's not like they used to be. So most of the jobs in what we started looking at in our own practice is like, man, most of the jobs fit. It was minor adjustments that needed to be done. So, what happens to Ashley, right? She's at home on Monday and it's fine, a day where she has time to do anything she wants to do. But Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday are like completely booked. who calls? VisionQuest Eyecare calls on Tuesday to tell him her little Johnny's glasses are in. And now she's got to figure out when to go to VisionQuest Eyecare. When instead they could have just arrived on our doorstep that same day. And now Ashley can pick when she wants to come back for that minor adjustment, not waiting longer to get the product.
Right. So basically you have just cured Ashley's problems. I mean, and that's, really you're only as good as the problems that you're solving. And so if you've solved that problem for her, you've literally created time for her. How valuable are you now? Because you've just created time. You've done something that no one else can do.
Right. And for us, I hope there's no listeners here in Indianapolis, but for us,
we're now, going to screen them out. That way they won't get it. Yeah.
Okay. Make sure. Yeah. Don't let them on here. But no, I mean, it's been fantastic because their mouths drop open. Like, what? Oh yeah, absolutely. That's fantastic. And really the other thing is, people move, right? Things happen and you move areas. And we've had patients who have moved, 30 minutes away to a different community, and it keeps them tied to us because now they can still get what they want from VisionQuest without having to make, that 30-minute drive, or because they move to a different town, we can still be their eye care provider within a certain, area. And it's still convenient because they're only coming to see us once or twice a year, and then they can still get their products, to their door. So that's Ashley. The way our practices look, and I won't take all the credit. We certainly have a really great marketing team. That was helpful for us. A local marketing team really helped us identify and, who Ashley is, down to the car she drives, the neighborhood she lives in, to really set other aspects of our practice up, the design of our new office, the messaging that goes out. What is Ashley, when COVID happened, what did Ashley want to hear? What message did she want to hear from our doctors? What was important to her? And so we certainly, send out marketing to all of our patients, but those are the biggest drivers. And those are the questions that we ask centered around that patient base. Because if we're not, our VisionQuest was started 23 years ago. Our goal is to keep it as current as, and not just let the practice age with the age of the practice. How do we get new people, new patients into the practice in the next generation? And that's how we stay viable as a private practice, by keeping new generations wanting to come into our practice.
This is really getting into the weeds a little bit, but this is the part where I always tell people this is $10,000 worth of free consulting for me. That has nothing to do with anybody else listening. I really don't care if they're listening at all. But so my question really is, what percentage are you guys aiming for in new guests to know that you're growing at the right rate?
Yeah. So, math, it's been a long day. I've been at work.
You can ballpark it.
I know it.
Ballpark it.
Yeah, it is. Yeah, I was going to say 20%. So that's, 25%. If we can get 20 to 25% of our patients to be new every month, then we feel like that's a success.
At what point does it get to be this sounds crazy, but where is it too many new guests? And now you're alienating your existing guests. So what's that number ballpark?
I don't know. We're not there yet. So that's not a problem we've tried to solve, to be honest. We certainly in our practice feel like we are not at capacity at any of our practices. So our growth is a 20% growth over LY. So we don't want new patients to fill in. If we see 20% new patients, but our overall growth is flat, to LY or below that 20, then we lost some patients somewhere. So we want to see a 20% growth in patients overall to the practice. And we're hoping that 20% of those are new patients. And that way, as long as our capacity and adding, we have room for another associate, OD, and to see that's what we want. Now, if we saw 20% new patients and, but our patient base as a whole was flat, that'd be a problem.
Yeah. So we're we're talking at the very beginning of the year. I mean, it's the 4th, of January 2021. What's on the horizon for you guys? And I don't mean just this year. What are you looking at in the future? What's next for VisionQuest?
For VisionQuest, what's next? We just opened that brand new practice. So for us, it's a lot of focus and to grow this cold start practice. That's on the horizon. And that's a big focus for this year in 2021 is to grow the new practice that we just opened. And I think how well and successful we are at growing this practice will tell us big parts in the future as what our potential continues and could still be. We're not going to be a practice that we don't have goals and aspirations to have 12 different offices, or grow like that. That's not who we are, but we certainly feel that, we do things a little bit differently with patient detail and the patient experience, and not arrogant, but we're confident that we can provide the best patient eye care that they've never had before, more than the general practice. And our goal is to treat people and make people in the communities where our practices reside, that we are their go-to place for eye care. And so I think that's where our focus is. And that's what's on the horizon, is to continue to serve the communities that our practices are in and provide the best patient care and eye care for those patients in those areas.
So where are you going for your ideas on other aspects of your practice? I mean, what are you looking to outside for your influence, I guess you would say? Where are you getting those kind of things?
Everywhere and anywhere, to be honest. I personally, I can't wait to get back to the wisdom sharing group, those meetings that we would have there. They're fantastic. There's so many good ideas. That's like free consulting for us.
Right.
So that, I do listen to your podcast, so you have there's just, if you look, we have a consultant, we partner with Power Practice and do things like that. So those are things that we do to try to, gain ideas. We certainly aren't the smartest people, but our ears and eyes are always open. So we want to steal the good ideas and leave the bad ones, and see how well we can implement those. So
yeah, it's kind of funny. All the people in most optometry school classes that graduated at the tippy top, with the exception of maybe of Mick Kling and a couple of those people, I don't know what they're doing. But there's a whole bunch of us middle of the road people who are doing really well, and yeah. I think it's because we were never afraid to go, well, I don't know, what's the answer to that? And look at somebody else and ask them a question, and then go, oh, okay. And just maybe let's try that and see how that works, and next thing you know, suddenly, oh my gosh, that worked. Who else could I ask, and I think that's part of it, is just getting past that whole ego of I know everything and you can't tell me anything. And so I think that's really probably the best thing about, and that's one thing I do love about our group too, is the fact that there are so many people in that room who have no ego whatsoever. They don't mind saying, I don't know, or what are you doing? And how did you figure that out? Oh yeah. Or don't do that. Yeah. Those are some of the better ones too, because yeah. But gosh, if it wasn't for poor old Russ, I mean, he's brilliant, but gosh, he's kept us all out of jail.
I know, right? I know. It's so I don't know. But certainly, I hope I've met, so in being the COO of VisionQuest, I've certainly had the opportunity to meet a lot more people, and just, connect with different vendors and, build connections over the course of the last 4.5 years. And I think really that's been the biggest instrumental part, because our ears are really always open. I don't know. But we are certainly not afraid to have we don't need to have all the answers. We just keep looking for them. And I think too, we're not afraid to make a mistake. We've talked a lot about a lot of great things that have happened in the 4.5 years, that have been at VisionQuest. There's certainly just as many failures on top of it. So you're right. In the eye care industry, those guys that were at the very top were women. I don't know. The eye care business is a very unique business industry in itself, is that sometimes I think it's like the best communicators and the people who are great at building relationships and not afraid to ask questions or have a conversation. Those are the ones that seem to do the best because they're the most relatable to everybody else. So we'll continue to keep doing that at VisionQuest.
One of the things also that tends to make us great, I think, those who are trying to learn and learning from our mistakes. But another thing that I see a lot of great leaders and a lot of great organizations do is they stop doing some things. Is there something you guys have been doing up to now that y'all are saying, okay, this is probably, it's outlived it's time maybe for this necessarily to end at this point?
What have we stopped? Oh, we've stopped a lot of things. You stumped me on like something right off the top of my head. Gosh, what have we stopped doing?
Because if we continue to keep doing everything that we've always been doing, I would still be trying to become a professional football player. I'm not built for that at all. I'd have 8 people attached to me possibly that would have that would be terrible. 8 romantic relationships. That would be awful.
That'd be bad. I think we stopped trying we stopped trying to be bigger than who we are. We just take everything day by day. Rome wasn't built in a day, right? So, we obviously have goals and we're very, business oriented, and we focus on the future, as well, but we don't make it bigger than what it is. Today was all about taking the care of the patients that we saw today. That's what we needed to be on, what we needed to focus on. So for us, and I'm not saying that we were there, but we really have stopped just trying to make everything perfect. We're just being better at implementing the things that are important and letting those smaller things on the priority list, stop creating lists with 20 different things to get done. Let's focus on 3 things we want to get done and let's get them done. When the list gets to 20 things, it's just about do this, do that, do this, do that. And you're just checking boxes, and nothing gets done when you just check the box.
Yeah. 3 is a magic number all the way around. That's a good one. So one last thing I want to ask, and this doesn't have to be professional. This can be personal, whatever, but can you share one really big win that you've had over the last 10 months since COVID began?
One big win that I've had. Yes. The biggest win I have is during COVID, my husband and I, we bought a new house. We moved, we got in a new community. We did this with 3 kids in the middle of COVID. We're very excited. In the last, I think it's been since we moved in September. So our biggest focus personally, has been just making our new house our home. And, my husband and I are very hands-on. We love projects. We like to do things ourselves. So it's been, I give my husband a little, most of the credit. I'll take a little bit, but I think we painted all 4,400 square feet of the house ourselves. Wow. Because we just were what else are we doing? It's COVID, right? So I have to be safe. I can't go out and mingle with the masses. So that's been exciting for us over the course of the last, not 10 months, but, since September. So 4 months. So that was exciting. And then I think personally, this isn't my win, but I'm a huge sports fan, huge. And I was a diehard San Diego Charger fan my whole life. And they traded my boy, Phillip Rivers, to the Indianapolis Colts. So this season I've actually been able to be a hometown fan of my team because my boy's back on the Colts. So and they made the playoffs yesterday. So it's been fun.
Congratulations. Well, Audrey, I really appreciate your time this afternoon. And I got to tell you, I can't wait till we're all face to face again instead of face to screen again. But because the time I get to share with you guys in Houston is phenomenal. And it's not just about the learning that we do. It's just hanging out and having a good time. And I hope that some of that came across today to the rest of you guys too, because we really do enjoy we have a blast in that one together.
We really do. And maybe then we don't have to worry about going to where were we at? Dave and Buster's or someplace like that, and we don't have to worry about catching something. We can go have a good time again. So
I think I'm just going to suggest this time that they just get a couple of big pit, like big grills to pull in. We'll just grill behind the home office and just have some fun there. That'd be a lot of fun.
Absolutely. Fantastic. Well, thanks so much for having me.
My pleasure.
I really appreciate it.
My pleasure. And we'll talk very soon, Audrey. Thank you.
Sounds great. Bye, Ted.
Bye-bye. This was awesome. That was great. Thank you.
Well, are you sure? Because I thought it was terrible.
No, it was fantastic. I mean, this is the kind of stuff that's really, really good. I mean, because I like just digging into just all this stuff. I try to keep it to not a whole lot of topics. I don't want a whole bunch of stuff because it's a little easier to talk about it. But this is exactly the kind of stuff I enjoyed. This is fun to me.
Well, you made it very comfortable. I told you I was nervous. I was like, if I sounded like, if you play it back and it sounds terrible, like just edit it out or don't throw it away. So
it's going to be fine. In fact, I'll probably,
as long as I don't sound like an idiot.
No, you don't. And I'll try to get this thing edited by this week and get it back to you so you can take a listen and see if it's okay for you. I've got one I'm going to do Thursday with a guy that's in our business accelerator group. He is at least 1 year ahead of me, maybe two. This guy's name's Bobby McGraw. Sounds like a great name, doesn't it? Sounds like
right.
A pitcher for the some big baseball team. But anyway, Bobby is a executive pastor of let's call it a almost mega church in Atlanta. Mm-hmm. And he's just this really incredible just dude. I mean, and I can't wait to dig into some of the things. One of the questions I can't wait to ask him is, like, do you just get invited to just go and pray for people? I mean, every time there's a meal and somebody's looking around for somebody to do a blessing, do they always look at you and you feel a little weird when that happens?
That's awesome. That's awesome. I do envy you a little bit because I bet you get to have like phenomenal conversations. Like I did. I shouldn't have listened. I did. I was like listening because I was behind. And so I was like, the last podcast, I think I was listening to your one with Lori on Fearless Leaders. And I was phenomenal.
Like, yes,
I shouldn't have listened to that one because I got all nervous because Lori's like great. I mean, she's, super fantastic already. And I was like, oh, great. Like you shouldn't have listened to this one. But I was like, you get to listen and talk to like the best people. And really, that's where we've gotten most of our ideas, like listening to people who are better than we are.